Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Wolters Kluwer Smarter CA webinar series, Automating Audit for CA Firms, Reducing Audit Costs and Increasing Productivity. Our speakers today are CA Sanjeev Sanghi, who is a fellow member of ICAI with a post-qualification experience of 22 eventful years. He is the Secretary, Eastern India Regional Council of ICAI. We also have Mr. Mahender Kumar Walu, partner at Mr. Bhaskar Rao and Company, Mr. Manoj Sharma, and Mr. Ritesh Kumar, partners at SNR and Company, and Mr. Chris Agarwal, VP Tax and Accounting at Wolters Kluwer, India. During the webinar, if you have any questions, you may please post them on the Q&A panel right towards the bottom of the webinar, and we will address it towards the end. It is now over to Chris.
Thank you so much, Neha, and a warm welcome to everyone. It's indeed heartening to know that nearly 800 of our tax and accounting colleagues have joined this webinar. Just as a quick precursor, I just wanted to share a few thoughts before we dive in fully into the presentations. I think from our side, and I think the key part for us is that Wolters Kluwer is a 200-year-old company. We have been around in tax and accounting since 1913, and our focus has always been enabling professionals. And we have been in India for now 12 years, and have brought several of our software solutions into India. And we are the largest in practice management and several other spheres within the tax and accounting business. A very stable company. I think we continue to do well despite the challenges the world is facing due to COVID. And we are glad to announce that our software that we brought into India, Audit Automation, is also doing very well. And I think the focus today will be focusing on how Audit Automation can help you. You'll hear from our esteemed clients as well as Mr. Sanjeev Sanghi on how audit is moving. The fact that manual audit is slowing you down. We can see that automating audit can help you save more than a third of your time. Plus, also with the kind of changes in the regulatory environment for chartered accountant firms, how important it is to have an electronic paper trail, an electronic approval trail, as well as consolidation of all your papers, working papers, etc. in one place, for you to be able to manage group audits, for you to be able to consolidate, for you to be able to reduce time as you audit the same firms again and again. So it helps reduce complexity. There is a huge amount of paperwork that you save, and the biggest thing, you reduce the risk and the risk that your firm carries, including the reputation. We've all seen how even the big four have not been spared with the kind of things that MCA is going after. We live in uncertain times, and now with COVID situation, all of us are faced with working with lesser staff, lesser time pressure, because it's not that the audit will go away this year, but we will have less time to do it, and the fact that we will need to do it keeping risk in mind. So what does Audit Automation, which is our product, do? It basically helps you complete more audits with fewer resources and with lower risk. It reduces complexity, paperwork, as well as risk across the board. And it's not that it changes the way you're doing audit. The best part about our software solution is it's the same process that you would use for your regular audit. The only thing which it does is increases its effectiveness by using a digital platform. So all of the practices that you have customized to the way your firm does audit is what we really offer. And if you look at our product, this is something which has been proven for over 2 decades in the UK with nearly 500 top clients, top audit firms there. There is, like I said, no new audit methodology that you need to work. The software is very flexible. It can be customized to your process flows. There is no limit to adding clients. We have India-specific and dedicated master packs, which we've created for IGAP and Ind AS. There is multiple user access and very, very secure authorization, which you can set at different levels. You can perform risk-based audits. You can carry forward all your findings from one year to the other. And for India, the model that we have is not a yearly subscription, but it's a license purchase, similar to what you would do for, let's say, Microsoft Office or Windows at some point in time. And you can perform audits, like I said, across group companies, multiple trial balances. You can lock documents. You can send notes between the people in the field. It can be done offline as well as online. It can be hosted in your private cloud or VPN. So it's really, really a very flexible kind of solution. And what we have committed to the Indian market is to continue to add more and more packs which are customized to Indian needs, whether it's limited review, whether it's for smaller company audits, and in future tax audit, GST audit, and every other thing which will come up. So that is our commitment to the market, where we can bring in more and more benefits into the same audit software, which is really, really built to suit requirements for local conditions. So that's about it from me. I will hand over to Mr. Sanjeev Sanghi to take it on, and you'll hear from him in his views on audit automation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Krish. A very warm good afternoon to all of you. And I think I'm an independent professional, but I was being approached by CCH Wolters Kluwer to share my experience on why at all we need to do audit automation and what are the challenges behind it. So let's start the journey. I think most of us is chartered accountant, and I've been doing this drive for bringing more and more technology to our accounting profession is one relevant thing, which is a change. And I think all of us must have seen this quote that the one who is adaptable. So what we have seen in our past is we were doing audit with a manual tick. It has always been a situation wherein we get the documents and we apply our pen and paper and we check each and every vouching. So that's a cycle which we are been going through. Now to change that mindset is what is the need of the hour today. And why change is very important for all of us for three important reasons. I think with the way things are moving, one is definitely the legislations. It is definitely not possible for all of us to be on top of all the different auditing standards, documentations, SA 500, all different regulations. It's not possible for all of us to be on top of it, because we have to think about how we can learn new things, unlearn things which we have learned in the past, and actually adapt ourselves with this new legislation. Expectations. A very interesting thing which I wanted to share with you, there was a very interesting say which says that, while driving digital transformation, what is the most important key factor? And I will say, COVID is one very important and relevant factor which has actually driven digital transformation. And all the clients, whether you talk about small and medium enterprises or large enterprises, the expectations have changed. They have become more virtual. They have become more, their expectations are now more remote. They want to work more from home. So they want and they expect from the auditors to, understand technology and to do things in a much, much more organized manner. And last but not the least, it's now we all understand a VUCA world, a world wherein, everything is volatile, it's uncertain, there's huge amount of complexity around and ambiguity. So we don't know what's going to happen. So it's very important of not reinventing the wheel, but just be dependent on things and situations which actually help us, drive through this in a much, much smoother manner. This is a favorite slide which I always talk about, the change of role of auditors from Munimjis, like we used to be called Munimjis, 50, 100 years back, to a future ready consultant. So I think this transformation needs to be understood, because once we get or buy the thought of change, I think the entire journey starts from there. And this is the current state of affairs which we all are aware of. And I just wanted to highlight these 5 or 6 important areas, which is very important while we conduct an audit. Generally, our scope of audit is basically based on verbal arrangements. The client comes to us, they give us an arrangement, or most of the time there is no verbal communication at all. So that is not at all organized. So at times what happens, they expect more and more from us, and we tend to do more and more work for them, and there's no documentation behind it. Sampling of data, we took the data based on exceptions, which is not going to be the future. The future is going to be 100% data collation, and we are going to see how we can do that. Improper audit planning, collection of the audit documents, there is no trail. Nobody is knowing who is doing what. If you are running an audit program, there are multiple people working for different clients. And what we see is that we don't have a complete track of who is doing what. And the client, we are not able to update them that where we are standing at any point of time. Lack of standardization, so every audit is a new audit. This is how the mantra goes with all of us. Every time when we do audit is a new audit for us. So it's like putting more money, more resources, more time, and more work, and answering the same question again. So this is a lack of huge amount of standardization in the current state of the way we do audit. And last but not the least, the inadequate training of audit assistants. There is no proper training or checklist or work schedule or work program where an audit assistant know exactly what they are supposed to do on a particular day or time. So the role which I'm talking about has changed a lot. The role has changed from hindsight to foresight. And that is what we all need to understand, that now the client are not only looking for us to do that compliance, they are actually dependent on us. They are depending on our work. They are depending on our data. So we have to travel this journey from hindsight to insight, and then from insight to foresight. Because when we are working for US clients as on today, we are mostly working on the foresighting of work, wherein we are doing forecasting of the cash flows, forecasting of the numbers. So audit needs to also run on those mechanisms where we can plan things for future. And the biggest objective, I think, to automate audit process is, we want to complete the entire audit in time with a deadline. We want to have detailed checking. We want to have reduced man hours, reduced cost, because now what is going to happen is that we have to depend on resources which are highly skilled, who can work on multi-system environment, and we need to learn how to leverage technology to automate our audit process. So I think these are like very bulleted points so far as objectives are concerned. Let's talk about the challenges. Like, all right, I got the mindset that I want to, actually automate my entire audit process. Now, how to go about it and what are the challenges I feel? I think there are certain skills which we have to inbuilt into us as an auditor, which we are generally, we are taken aback. We are like always take a back foot. But now the change which is going to come up is we need to be forward looking. We need to be innovative, insightful, social, mobile, collaborative, and cloud-based. I think these are the attributes which are mostly expected by an auditor who is actually looking to, completely transform the way they are doing practice. And three important factors which I always talk about is mindset, skill set, and tool set. So why we need a right mindset, apply the right skills, and learn the new tools. I think Wolters Kluwer is having a great tool, which other speakers are definitely going to talk about. But we definitely need these three important sets, which is important for us to do a transformational journey for our audit profession. And I'll just focus on these three important slides. On the mindset, what we need to do is that we need to start a journey, take a baby step, a step wherein let's do a change. Let's talk about a situation when we can, be 100% remote. We can be 100% virtual. We have complete control over what we are doing. And we are actually managing our process anytime from anywhere. So a shift from the legacy system is something which is blocking our mind, and we are the biggest problem in our organization. So that shift should come from us. We cannot just go and buy a particular software and call a team and say, hey, you know what? I've purchased a software for you. Now you go and implement it. It is not going to work. The way it is going to work is that you need to drive it. You are the person who is going to be in the front seat, who is going to drive this change in your organization. You need to have this vision in your mind and drive this transformational journey of shifting new systems, accepting and adapting and learning new system, and actually getting on your entire team on board with the new system. So that's the mindset which is going to play the major role in this entire journey of automating your audit practice. And then you need to acquire relevant skills and tools. I think few tools I have just identified. I think you have speakers who are going to talk more on different tools. But yes, if you want to really learn and upskill yourself, I think R and Python is something which is going to definitely help you. You need to talk about RPA, which is actually, allow you to identify all the process and actually, convert or automate them using Blue Prism or UiPath. Automation tool, Wolters Kluwer is coming up with a wonderful product which they have. You have project management tools, and so these are few tools which I think you can take a note of, which will definitely help you in your journey of automating your audit profession. I will love to, since my time limit is only for 10 minutes, I will love to, answer questions if any comes in between. And over to Chris. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sanjeev, for that, and very insightful as always. I think I think it's absolutely critical for chartered accountants and people in all spheres to really be able to equip the best technology in light of the changing times. And I think it will only change further and accelerate with what COVID has done. I think what we thought will happen in 3 years is going to happen in 6 months. I think that's been a big takeaway for all of us. And without much ado now, I will hand over to SNR, to Mr. Manoj and Mr. Ritesh to walk you through their presentation as well. Just give me a moment. I'm just sharing. Over to you, Mr. Manoj. I think you're on mute, sir. 1 second.
Thank you. Yeah. Good afternoon, Sanjeev, Mahida, Krish, and all the professional colleagues from across India. I think I can see a lot of questions, actually, a lot of questions coming in comments actually related to the pricing and all actually. So I think human minds, works in a very different way actually. So I think price, just to, while Krish can share a lot of, the details about the pricing and all, I think it's a reasonably priced product actually that I can say from my experience actually. So just to start our presentation, I shall talk about, when we were approached by Wolters actually to talk about the audit automation and our experience of using the software. And, I couldn't resist myself but to say yes actually, because that's automation in fact in current times is critical for all the audit practitioners. We at our firm in fact have been doing a lot of technology upgradation over last few years in fact, and if we see every one of us in fact all the professional, if I can recollect the earlier time where when I did my internship and started CA practice actually, we used to do a lot of things manual, like filing of tax return, we used to do it manually. Now everything is automated. In fact government has moved to automation actually. ROC return, I remember that it used to be filled manually and we used to go in ROC office and submit it manually. Now everything is online. So I think one of the profession where we lag behind a bit actually, I think is the audit. And I'm happy that CCH has come up with a product actually which takes the auditors also to the next level, this audit automation. In fact, if I had to summarize my practice of last 20 years or so, where I had to pinpoint on a one point actually where I would like a continuous improvement in our functioning. That's something I can call is audit documentation. Audit documentation is something where every file, when every year on year, every audit to audit, you see the documentation, you feel that something more, maybe more, like Sanjeev said, that kind of lack of standardization, because nowadays of course you have different people doing audits, so you can see that standardization is lacking actually. So I think this product actually brings it hits the bird's eye actually. It can bring standardization across the firm. That's very helpful actually. And I would say that times and environment have been changing for the auditors now, and we as an auditor need to evolve. If you see the quality review board actually, there's an audit oversight board actually of institute actually who carries out the review of auditors. There are a lot of observation which our presentation has those. My colleague Ritesh, I shall ask my colleague Ritesh to talk about that. But if you see the observation actually, many of them can be avoided if we follow the audit documentation appropriately. And I think with manual audit it's pretty difficult actually. We have experienced it over so many years. We try, of course we achieve some level of one sec. We achieve we can achieve some kind of standardization, but with manual system is pretty difficult. So I think I'm pretty happy that Wolters Kluwer, with their history of providing resources to professionals across the world, has come up with this CCH, that audit automation software, and I'm sure this will help a lot of professionals. Like it is helping us actually, we are already on board with them, and we are using it, and I think it's perfect. We have prepared a small presentation where we will talk about the benefits and the requirement, especially the benefits and all. And I shall ask my colleague Ritesh to talk about on this. Thank you very much. Ritesh, can you please take over?
Yeah, sure. You cut it. Hi, warm welcome to everyone. So as Manoj sir just pointed out a brief of our experience as far as CCH software is concerned. I think Sanjeev, Chris, everyone has touched upon the various benefits of audit automation tool. But what we are going to discuss, we will discuss about our experience with the audit automation tool. We have been using it. We have started using it recently only. So we've been using it for past 4-5 months. But so far our experience has been pretty positive. And there are a few points which we will touch upon. Now, starting from what Manoj said about QRB, Quality Review Board. So we went through Quality Review Board observations. So QRB, everyone knows that they carry out this review of different audit files across different industries. So they came up with certain observations as far as their review of financial year 18-19 was concerned. And you can look at the observations. These are very basic observations, and most of us might be feeling somewhere that we are complying with everything. But if you go through their observations, these are very basic observations that most of the firms have found to be not complying with fully, like not establishing policies and procedures in completion of assembly of final engagement file. Safe custody of your documentation was another issue which they pointed out. Accessibility and retrievability of your information. That's another challenge which most of us is found from on a continuous basis. Then not evidencing the assembly of audit file. As you know that we have to complete our audit engagement file within 60 days as per the SQC1. But most of the firms were doing it, but they were not able to demonstrate it. And I think that's where our traditional audit approach lacks a lot. Most of the big 4, big 5, as you call them, they have, I think most of them have got their own customized audit software. And this is something they're able to demonstrate. They're able to demonstrate very fully. But as far as the medium-sized firms, maybe below big 4, big 5, and the other firms, they've always faced this challenge of, demonstrating the work which they have done. And then deficiency in documentation, no documentation of discussion notes. So discussion happens between engagement team members, but there were no documentation which they were able to demonstrate. The non-adherence to accounting standard checklist there. So you comply with accounting standards, but there is no checklist which you can demonstrate to the reviewers. And then if you look at the other basic points, these are very basic points: not preparing audit documentation properly for planning of audit, identifying and assessing the risk, not preparing audit documents on a timely basis. And then there are various documentation requirements which have been mentioned in our different essays and SQC1. And there are various documentation requirements which have been mentioned, which they were found to be lacking. Various non-compliance with respect to AS, various non-compliance with respect to Schedule 3. So if you see, again, coming back to the same point, every one of us is a professional. So every one of us know how to do an audit. But the basic, this basic saying in audit that work not documented is work not done. So that's where I think audit automation tool really helps you out. And then we will discuss going forward what are the benefits which we have observed so far in our experience with audit automation. So if we can move to the next slide, we can discuss about that. Now, so the problems which Quality Review Board addressed, now whether audit automation tool can address it, we, basis our own experience, what we have seen over the course of 5-6 months, we believe yes, to large extent, yes, audit automation tool can take care of lots of those problems which QRB highlighted. If we can move to the next slide, we will talk about that. Yeah, next slide. So the first question which would be in the mind of lots of participants would be, why should we move to audit automation? As I said earlier, most of you would feel that we are already well versed with whatever we are doing, but then doing your work in a proper way is one thing, but then demonstrating it to the outsiders is another thing. These are two different things, and this is the big lag which we have seen even in our prior audit experiences, we felt that, okay, we did everything right, but whenever we have to demonstrate that to the outside world, or even we have to demonstrate that to ourselves, we somewhere were not able to demonstrate that clearly to our satisfaction. And this is where I think audit automation can really help. And as Sanjeev, during one of his slides, he said that adaptation is the key. In today's world, adaptation is the key. As they say, change is the only constant. So you have to embrace audit automation is something which is here to stay. You can't run away from it. And as you know, lots of frauds which have taken place over the course of past few years. Most of the big firms have also got entangled into it. So this is where I think audit automation can minimize the risk. Obviously, some sort of risk would always be there. Some sort of inherent risk would always be there. But at least with the help of audit automation tool, you can minimize your risk to a very acceptable level. So that's where I think audit automation is the future. That it's a change that we need to embrace. And the more quickly we adapt to this change, I think the more better it would be for us as a profession. Now, can you move to the next slide? Yeah. Now, let us speak out our own experience as to what made us to move to audit automation. Now, audit automation was something which we were thinking for past various years. I think for past 2-3 years, there were deliberation internally. There were lots of sessions which happened internally where we realized that we are lacking somewhere in our audit documentation. And that's where we thought of moving into the audit automation tool. But what are the different reasons which prompted us to move to audit automation? We were managed to identify a few of the events, and when we had a discussion with our colleagues across other working in different areas, we realized that these are the problems which are not restricted to our firm only. This is the problem which is being faced by other firms as well. And one of the biggest problems which most of us face is continuous movement of resources. As you very well know, in our profession, there is a huge turnover of the employees. Employees move within firms. They move from one firm to another firm. And even within the firm, there is a continuous movement of the employee from one assignment to another assignment. And that's where the time available with you to do the review and all that, the time gets squeezed somewhere. And that's the one big problem which we face, one of the biggest contributing factor which we feel towards the inadequate documentation in current scenario. Then another point which I think Sanjeev also touched upon in one of his slides is lack of standardization across the firm. We have got our own templates. Those templates are available for everyone. We have got our own checklist, work paper templates, which is accessible by the entire team. But despite that, we realize that there is still no uniformity, no consistency available across the different teams. Obviously, this problem would vary from firm to firm, but this is something which we realized when we had a discussion with amongst our peers working in other practices. We realized this is the problem which most of them are facing, because there is no standard tool. There is no standard tool where all the templates are available. Some templates are available here, and the modification keeps on happening templates on a time-to-time basis. So that's another problem which we faced, was another contributing factor towards the inadequate documentation. And then lack of effective review, as I said, due to the continuous movement of the employees and continuous movement of the resources, and most of the time they would be at the client place. So the review also takes a hit. And that's where I think we will touch upon in later slides how audit automation would help in. And another peculiar problem which we faced was multiple version of documents, because we realized this from our experience. I remember one of our external review took place, and there were certain documents, which were asked from us, and those documents were there in the file, but the response time we felt was much larger. We could have avoided we could have brought down the response time. And then that's when we realized this problem, that most of us, we are working on an assignment. We are preparing different work papers, different documents, and there are different versions of work paper which are there in your file. And that's where we felt that since there is no synchronization, there is no uniformity, there is no uniform database, and that's where most of the resources felt problem in extracting the work paper on a timely basis. It's not as if we didn't do that work. We had that work. We had that final version with us. but we face problem in identifying the final version. And that's where I think that this audit automation tool has helped us so far from our experience, that has helped us to a large extent. Now coming to next slide. Now key benefits. Now key benefits. Yeah, one thing which we realize, as I said, we adopted this software around 5-6 months back. And now in the context of current COVID-19 scenario, we believe we couldn't have implemented it at a much better time. That was the best time to implement this audit automation tool, this CCH tool. Because as you know, offices have come to a standstill, offices are closed, but obviously you can work from home. And now if you have to work from home, what you require is that there should not be any dependence on the office. So if your office is closed, that shouldn't hamper your work being done from the home. And that's where this audit automation tool can really help, because most of if you look at the traditional audit which we do, most of our documentation is either in hard file, which would be kept somewhere in your office, somewhere you might have kept it somewhere in the store, or it must be there lying at some cabin, or either if you keep your documentation in soft, that would be also lying on your server somewhere in the office. Now audit automation tool helps you out. Audit automation tool really helps you out, because when you have audit automation tool which can be accessed from anywhere by anyone, you just require a good stable internet connection. That's it. You can access it from anywhere, and there is a cloud facility which is also available, so you can have that cloud facility as well. So that's when we realize the importance of CCH tool more and more. And now if we can move to the next slide. Now, what are the key benefits? Now this is purely basis our experience, what we have seen so far. It's still early days for us, but we can easily foresee the benefits which we're expecting. We have already started seeing those benefits. And as you can easily see in quality review board observations, most of the observations if we go through, they are more on the quality aspect of the audit. They're not questioning what you did, you went wrong in the audit, no, but it's the documentation, and documentation is something which is very important. So if your documentation is not correct, it doesn't reflect good on the audit quality as well. So that's where this audit automation tool can really help. Now, the biggest benefit which I personally believe has come from audit tool is that we have got more organized. And as you know, just like in life or you do anything else, being more disciplined, more organized always help. And that's where this audit automation tool has helped, because now we have got everything right from the planning stage till the execution stage. Everything is under one umbrella. There is one big file, if I have to put it like this. There is one big file where all your documents can be put in place. And those, and you obviously you will put only the final version there, not the multiple versions. So this problem of having duplicacy of versions, multiple versions would also help. So this is, I believe that's the biggest benefit which we have realized personally. This is our experience, that we have got more organized, more disciplined as far as our audit documentation is concerned. Then another point which we raised earlier, with the traditional audit, the standardization of audit, lack of standardization is another problem which we have faced. Now with this audit tool, obviously minor tweaking would be required. From client to client basis, you would require minor tweaking. Obviously the procedures which you perform for a small entity would be different from what you perform for a large entity. So some minor tweaking would be required, but the basic framework of audit, the methodology of audit, that would remain constant across your multiple clients. So that standardization has also helped us a lot. Now everyone knows, okay, this is the methodology which you have to follow. Then another important thing is saving time and improving efficiency. Now with the easy availability, now accessibility of this tool from anywhere around the world has obviously made our life easier. It has eased time. And now, as you know that moving to now, and there's another slide now, reduction in audit cost. Now since it has saved time, efficiency has also improved. So obviously that would also have ripple effect on your audit cost as well. And now, as you know, in current scenario where clients must have already started reaching out to you for reduction in fees. So if you're able to reduce your audit cost, there can't be much, it is like a bliss in the current situation. So that's where it can also help you out. And the next point is very important. Now, this is something which we experience, we remember we were pitching for one of our client, and the one question which we were not expecting from that client, that he asked whether you're using any audit software. Now that we didn't have any, so obviously we were not using our audit software, so we were not able to give a satisfactory response to them, and we managed to do. And I can't exactly remember if we managed to get that client or not, but this is something which we realized that even clients have started, asking such questions, and it's like what you say, standing out in the crowd. Now, either you do things differently or you do different things. It's like standing out in the crowd. Everyone knows how to do an audit. But if you have to pitch yourself, if you have to, so I think having an audit software also gives you that edge, I believe, amongst your peers. So that's where it can also help you. And now, with more and more emphasis on moving towards, paperless office, going green and all that stuff which is going on, I think audit automation is completely in sync with that. So if someone is thinking of transitioning from traditional office to paperless office, then I think audit automation tool is a must for every organization. Without this, it would be a challenge for you as far as the audit profession is concerned to move to because you can't move to a paperless office without having any audit automation tool, if I put it this way. So these are the benefits, so this is the experience which we have shared so far. Obviously, we are using it for only for past 4-5 months. So there are obviously lots of questions which we have, but so far CCH has, so far the support team has been very supportive, and they have addressed all our queries. And this is our experience again, as I said earlier, it's the future. You have to, how quickly you adapt to this change. I think it's all up to you. It's all up to you. And I think the more quickly you adapt to this change, the more better it would be for you. So with that, I just rest my presentation, and now I hand it over to Chris back so that he can proceed further. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Manoj and Mr. Ritesh, for that enlightening discussion. I think very, very informative, very useful. I think it's really the proof of the pudding is when you see, customers using solutions and seeing the benefits. So I think thank you again for that. I would now, just to reflect on some of the points which you already made, I think very pertinent in terms of even sometimes your end customers asking if you're using a solution, and the fact that you can demonstrate that you have, a technology solution where all of their data is secure. I think that's a big, big, big plus. So without much ado, I will now hand over to Mr. Mahedar. He will walk you through, his experience as well with the software, and he's really someone who spent a lot of time on the software. So I think we'll hear his valuable comments. So I will stop my share, and Mr. Mahedar, over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Just give me a moment. I'll just put up my deck over here. And yeah, so we have been with the audit automation for a year or so now. And when Wolters Kluwer came to us and said, why don't you also share your experience? We said, why not? If it is going to benefit others, let us also pitch into that. So this is a small story of our firm, of how we have moved over from the manual audit to the audit automation. So just to put the things into perspective, we are about 6 decades old firm, which is into practice. So we are purely into audit and assurance service. And if you look at our demography, age profile of our firm, so we have got very senior partners. We have partners who are in the range of 40 to 50 years, about 30 years, and there's a huge chunk of qualifieds who are maybe the younger lot, whom you may call, and you have the apprenticeship. So we have at all the age groups, we have persons, and it was quite a bit of a challenge to actually take everybody on board and move on to this platform of automation. So our whole journey started right from the manual era, when we used to have the manual books of accounts being maintained. In those days, tallying a trial balance itself was to be an achievement, was considered to be an achievement. So right from those days, we have been into the audit and assurance service. So one of the challenges in those times was standardization. We even tried our hands on having a pre-printed stationery kind of a thing where you define your work papers and your templates so that everybody could use that, and across the firm, irrespective of who is doing the audit, you may come across the same results. So one of the challenges in those times was the linking of the files. How do you demonstrate that you have done the audit, and then somebody who picks up your audit file and they can drill right from your balance sheet and profit and loss account till the last working paper, and then again doing the cross-referencing so that they can again come back from that last working paper up to back to your balance sheet or your profit and loss account. So these were the times when you never had these Microsoft Word and Excel also. So everything was on a manual thing, and that was the most probably the challenging times of audit period. Of course, the regulations at those time was different. From there on, we moved into the next step, probably what you call the first steps of automating your profession. So when you call it as automation could be anything. It could be right from your office management, it could be from your client management, it could be your document management. So one step at a time, we took it as a challenge to see that how much of it we can automate, and we tried to put a calendar kind of a thing wherein we'll try to improve upon one process at a time rather than trying to bring in everything at one go. So in this, it was the era where, the Microsoft Word and Excel were the predominant tools which every auditor were used to. Of course, subsequently you have these Google G Suite kind of a thing and the Microsoft thing, but that is not the true automation. Though you can do your linking, referencing, cross-referencing and everything in these, it lacks the audit trail. When we say audit trail, it is about seeing what was the original document, what were the changes made either by the preparer or by the reviewer or by ultimately by the partner to those documents, and whether those changes were accepted or those changes were rejected, and how those ultimately get reflected in your final report that you're going to issue. So these tools lack those things. The other things which probably Manoj and Ritesh also touched upon is on the QRB reports. Probably everybody should have a look at those reports and see what are the findings that they have brought in. So a couple of things I also would want to touch upon those things which we face on a day-to-day basis. For example, the risk assessment thing. So risk assessment, so for example, if your client is a big, large corporate and they have well-established standard operating procedures, they have well-established risk control matrices, the RCMs and all, it's easy for you to demonstrate, for you to validate, or for you to select a sample and do a walkthrough. But imagine the case where your clients are not that organized, or it's more a promoter-driven company, or where the controls are more held by the management and it's not very much spread out or not very much documented. How do you demonstrate with your audit file that you have done an adequate risk assessment, that you have done an adequate control evaluation, that you have done your procedures to mitigate these risks? So the challenge was not to do an audit, but to demonstrate the reviewer or the regulator that you have done your part. So what happens in a review is, the ideal situation, what they talk about is, let somebody pick up your audit file, let them go through that audit file and come to the same conclusion what you have arrived at without you sitting next to them. So if they are able to demonstrate that, then your audit file is perfect. But if they are not able to do that, then the question comes of improving our own processes. So same is the case with your materiality and sampling. So everybody knows what materiality is, and probably the only time you use materiality is whenever you come across any issue you would try to compare it with the materiality and see, okay, where does this amount lie, whether it is material, whether I should insist for an adjustment or not. But beyond that, how many actually use materiality for other functions? Say for sampling, you do a sampling whenever you go for an audit for whatever area you pick, you do a vouching, you do it on a sample basis. You know how to pick your samples. You probably might be doing a judgmental sampling, which is good enough, but how are you documenting those things? And the risk assessment, materiality, sampling, all these are interrelated. How does your materiality affect your sampling or sampling interval? How does your materiality or how does your risk affect your materiality computation? How does your risk and materiality affect your sample intervals? So if you don't have an automated tool for this, it is very difficult for you to demonstrate a reviewer to see that how these things have been applied. So one of the issue which comes in the QRB is that they say that the planning has not been done adequately, or planning has been done, but they are not able to correlate what has been written in the planning and what has been actually being executed. So there has to be a link between what is planned and ensure that the same is being executed. So for your risk, you have identified your risk and what audit procedures you are doing to ensure that this risk is mitigated. Whether somebody can identify, can they trace it from your risk assessment to your audit program? Can they do that one-to-one correlation? Can they do that one-to-one mapping of your procedures done with your risk assessment? Can they come to a conclusion that whatever procedures that you have done, how the outcome of that has affected your subsequent planning? How did that affect your substantial verification, and how you have come to your ultimate audit conclusion? Same is the case with the reliance that you place on other auditors, reliance placed on the work of the expert, or the component auditors, where you have subsidiaries or the branches which are being audited by others. How do you issue them instructions? How do you collate the responses back from them? How do you review them? How do you evaluate what could be the impact of that on your audit procedures? So all this requires, even our ICA has got plenty of guidance in respect of these matters for the risk assessment, for the sampling and materiality computation, and how do you use them in your audit. But the challenge comes in your application of these on your day-to-day audits. If you're trying to do it without an audit tool, it is quite challenging for you to actually implement that on the day-to-day course. So one of the solution was to try and have an automation system wherein these things are addressed, so that even if you forget to do a step 1 or step 2, it will keep on reminding you that, hey, you forgot to do this and you need to come and complete these steps before you get on to your actual execution. So we actually even tried our hands with developing our own applications. So we realized that that's quite a daunting task, considering the fact that you need to have developers always on your board, always keep your application up to date, always feed the application with the correct amount of checklists and all. So we had an audit manual for quite some time, which was kind of a Bible kind of a thing, wherein it talks about all your procedures right from your appointment, acceptance procedures, your pre-planning, planning, execution, reporting. It has got plenty of templates, worksheets, and everything. But at the end of the day, when you have such a large team, it all comes to the person executing, whether he implements those individual Word and Excel files, or he tries to improvise, or he tries to tailor it, or whether he applies it, irrespective of whether that's applicable to him or not. So automation was always the necessity. It was only a matter of time to get on board on the automation thing. So people might think that COVID, probably most of you would have come across these WhatsApp messages which keep on circulating, that who is the main reason for you to transform from your manual to audit, whether it's the CEO, CFO of your company, whether it's the managing partner of your company, or whether it's COVID. So I feel that COVID should not be the reason for you to automate. The need for automation was already there. COVID could only be the reason for you to speed up the entire process, but not the need for automation. So while we were looking at this automation, so one of the challenges was where we had multiple offices at different locations and tried to standardize our audit practice across all the regions. One was where our client had multiple locations, and say probably a group company where you have multiple companies or multiple divisions, and you wanted to do audit for them individually, but still able to correlate them and collate them into one single audit file. So whatever solution that we were looking for should had these minimum features, wherein though we can work in silos, but at the end of the day, we can compile, club them together and work as a single unit. As Krish was saying in the earlier, so this solution also had the flexibility of having master packs. So, and then your client pack. So master pack was something like a repository of checklists, repository of audit programs, templates of work papers, which could be made available. You just simply had to pick and choose which are applicable for your client, pull them out from that, apply it to your client, and your audit file would be ready. And going forward, you only have to roll forward your work papers. You should not redo the entire process year on year, as long as there's not much material change in your client's business. So that was one of the feature of rolling forward, which we were trying to look in the application that we wanted to zero in. So roll forward helps us to carry forward all the necessary documents from my previous audit to my current audit without having to again search the physical files, without having to search my entire server for repository of files. So roll forward was a must. And I could say that maybe we are a year old with this application, with this audit automation, and we are in a much better shape than what we were a year down in terms of trying to standardize across the firm when you have a diverse age group, a diverse clientele, diverse industries. The next step upon COVID, the one thing which hit us hard was what to do now when our offices are closed. So was there a possibility that we should move to the cloud or not? So that was the biggest question that was hanging upon us. And the time probably which we took to decide was more than the time it actually took us to migrate our workings from our physical server to the cloud. That went about in a breeze in maybe 5-10 minutes, not more than that. That's how simple it is. So you have plenty of cloud service providers. You have Amazon, you take Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud, or you can set up your own VPN and virtual private servers in your office. You can do it with remote access. The options are plenty. So the decision time that you would take is only on deciding which road to use. But once you have decided that, moving is as breeze as 5-10 minutes, not more than that. Setting up cloud nowadays is that easy. So it helps us to help our teams to work from home. It helps us to monitor what they are doing, how they are doing, and maintain the same level of quality, which otherwise would have been when they were doing it with our office servers or when we were working at the client's location. And once you are onto the cloud, of course, without saying it goes that you need to be ensure of your access controls and the backup procedures and hardening of your servers. The other thing probably which you should all look at is the DCMM model which the institute has launched. It will help you to evaluate where do you stand in terms of your automation story. You may not be able to jump on and take everything at one go, but identify what the low-hanging fruits are and try to attack them so that it's easy to implement them and reap the benefits out of it. So that's all, Krish, what I have. You can take over from here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mahinder. That was very, very helpful and useful as well for us. I think there has been a lot of questions around a quick demo of our product. The objective of our talk today was to talk you through the benefits, but I think we will give a very brief demo of our product. See, the product is extremely extensive, as you all know, and it's something that will require a very detailed demo. However, I will hand over to Prasoon from my team, who will walk you through some of the key points and how the software works. I think there have been some questions as well in terms of other tools which are available, including some free tools which may be coming. Now, all we can say is that we are the only real global player in this market, as we are in the practice management tool market as well. I think that our software is something which has a legacy, like I mentioned, of nearly 2 decades of development. It's a very stable platform. And while we welcome competition and other things, I think what we can say is that if you want a very robust, reliable, proven platform, which is also customized for Indian specifications and uses, ours is probably the only software out there at this point in time. So, we're happy to answer any specific questions. And it is not an analytics tool. It is a complete end-to-end audit automation tool. So Prasoon, are you ready? If you can take over for a brief demonstration.
Yes, Chris. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Thank you, Prasoon. Over to you.
Okay, sure.
If you want to share a quick presentation of the tool itself.
Yes, I'll just share my screen and. Okay, let me know once my screen is visible.
Yes, it is. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, first of all, thank you to all the speakers. It's been wonderful so far. And because we got a lot of inquiries about a brief demonstration, as Chris rightly mentioned, it's a very extensive solution, but we would try and cover the very vital points, which really helps the auditors to automate their audit processes. So yeah, it's an on-premise solution, as the speakers has also mentioned. It's your call at the end of the day whether you want to host it on your server or you can host it on cloud. You have both the facility to do that. So the moment the user logs in, this is the home page of the solution where they would be able to view all the clients that they are allowed to see. Okay. Now this software runs on a user access right basis. You can control that who would view which clients. So only where the user are participants of an audit program, you can allow them to view those clients. So there is a restriction to it. And apart from that, of course, there would be, like partner restriction, there would be manager restriction, so on and so forth, which normally the hierarchy flows in a audit processes. So now, if I just roll you back to the previous presentations where Mahinder and a few other speakers, Manoj ji and all, they speak about the master packs. So master pack in nutshell is a repository where we define all the checklists, the procedures, the materiality factors, our working papers, templates and all. That we would require when we perform an audit for a client. Now, being an auditor, as soon as we onboard a client or when we start doing an audit, we take a logical decision that what kind of audit that we are going to do, whether we are going to do a Ind AS audit or an accounting standard audit or a limited review audit. So we would select that particular pack and link with the client so that whatever we have defined in the master pack, everything flows during the process of audit for my team when they visit the client or when they sit in the office to perform the audit. So here you have a very important tool with you where you can customize. You can customize yourself. There's no limit of creating master packs. Of course, we provide you a few master packs along with this solution, but at any given time, you can customize those master packs. You can just clone those master packs, create a new one, and whatever edit you need to do, you can definitely tailor-made for your requirement as well. So that's why the system is absolutely flexible. You can customize as per your need. So let's quickly spend a couple of minutes, go and do a deep dive into the master pack and just try and understand the back end of the master pack, because once I link that master pack with a client, the same thing would flow during the process of the audit. Yeah. So I'm just moving to the left. If you see, there is a panel which are the menu panel, and at the bottom there are different menu buttons here. Since I would be diving deep into the master pack, so I'm just selecting this master pack button, and it's absolutely user friendly. It's to the point. Every key that I would click has also a shortcut key where you can use your keyboards as a shortcut key and directly jump into that particular point. And we will also give you a navigation panel, which I would show you once I link it with a client. So I'm going to a master pack here. I'm just showing an existing master pack. So you can create n number of master packs, as I have mentioned. We would already provide you INDS and IGAP master pack. So just to show you, let me show you INDS master pack. I think that would be much more relevant at this point in time. So I'm just opening up INDS master pack. So it is in a usable mode now with the client. I'm just releasing back for myself so that I can do some necessary changes that I want to do in the master pack. So I've just added it. So here you see on the left-hand side of the master pack, this is the master pack that I've just selected. And I need to do some changes in this master pack based on my requirement. So if you see on the left-hand side, these are all the menu buttons for the master pack. I'll just touch base the key important points, which you need to quickly have a look into before you link it with a client, so that we all are on the same page once we use this master pack and run you through a brief workflow. So we define the classifications, wherein these classifications are the primary groups which your clients share with their trial balances. So you can say that these are kind of a family or a group where we would link it with several general ledgers or nominal accounts. Okay. So there is an add button, delete button, and edit button, which you would see in all the pages. At any point in time you want to edit the nomenclature, you can do that. You can delete if you don't require, or you can add a new one. So it's absolutely flexible in that regards. Now, these are all primary groups. We call it account classifications. Now, if you go at the top here, these are the nominal accounts which we have defined. Now, you might have a question that this nominal accounts has been standardized, but what if my client use a different accounting software? Some are using SAP, some are using Oracle, or some Tele. Now, everybody would have a different code. So for the first time, we need to map your client's trial balance or their codes in this system so that it gets automatically imported. That's just a one-time work that we need to do, just the mapping, and it becomes very smooth in terms of importing. From the next year onwards, hoping that they would use the same accounting software for the accounting needs and the codes would not change drastically. If there are minor changes, we can just do that over the system and we can smoothly, import their trial balances. So if you see every of the nominal accounts, let's go and check land. If I just double click on this nominal account, it is linked to a primary group where I have shown you the account classification, which is called plant, property, and equipment. So if you see, these are the list of primary groups which I have shown you. And every of my nominal account is also tagged with a category, whether it goes to a balance sheet or a profit and loss. So this wise, the moment I upload a trial balance, everything is tagged at the background. I straight away get my materiality, I get my audit area, materiality, which of my areas material and of my interest, which are not, what is my materiality value, what are my lead schedules, everything I would get automatically once it is imported. And we also get the financial reports, my profit and loss, my balance sheet, everything gets automatically generated in my Excel. I also have an opportunity here, if I need to do a bit of tweak, if it's required from client to client, I can also do that as well. So that was about the nominal account and the account classifications. And I would just like to quickly show you the audit areas. So if you see, these are the audit areas. Again, then you can add more, you can delete more, but these have all been standardized as per the Indian accounting need for Indi AS. Now, the audit areas has many functionalities. Just want to show you quickly the checklists and the standard programs, which are very important. So just want to give you a glimpse of that. Let's say under planning, if you see on the right-hand side, these are the menu buttons for each and every audit areas. So we have defined checklists for all the audit areas. So these are the checklists. If you see here, let's say, for example, if I want to show you understanding client business, just a glimpse of it. As I said, this is, what we have put at the back end. The same will flow when we link it with the client. Then you would have an answering button of yes, no, or whatever the way you defined here in the checklist. So these are the questions that would pop up once I link this master pack with the client. And similarly, like this checklist, we have many other checklists which we have defined. And we have also given the para wherever it is required so that, the user find it more relevant. We also have a knowledge base there. Any question where it is required a bit of explanation for your teammates, for your users, we also can link knowledge, know-how out on the questions, which I will show you once I, progress in the demonstration. So that was about the checklist. If I just pick any of the audit area, let's say for instance, I'm picking it up property, plant, and equipment here. So I've shown you the checklist. Now I would like to show you the standard programs as well. So standard programs would be more from the perspective of, evaluating and digging deep inside the question. So where I need to opt in, I need to verify, and I need to complete the test. So if you see, these are the standard programs which will flow when I take this audit area, property, plant, and equipment during my field work. We have also linked these assertions here where we have put the conditions. So we have defined the assertions as per the accounting standard here. So just want to show you the assertions as well. So these are the audit assertions here, which we have picked up. And now if you see here under the audit areas, under plant, property, and equipment, so there is an objectives which has been defined for each of my areas. So each of my objectives are tagged with the assertions, and these assertions are linked with the audit programs. So if you raise a risk, automatically your non-substantive sampling, your substantive sampling would automatically pick up by the system. So you can also perform a risk-based audit. You can do your control environment testing. You can do an risk assessment, which will help you, to get your sample size as well. So that was about the audit assertions and the audit areas. Coming back to the audit areas, if you see here, we have also defined the conclusions here for the senior, for the manager, for the partners. If you want, you can just modify, you can edit it the way, as per your requirement, the way you want it. And on the top of it, we also have, defined some controls here where we have said that, if the trial balance does not have any value for this area would not get activated. So my users would not struggle, working on those areas which is not important or not required for that particular client. So it would automatically get tailor-made. If you see here, every of my audit area has been put in condition there, and also are linked with my classifications as well as assertions. So everything is pre-linked into the system. You can customize if it's required. That's about the audit assistance and the audit areas. And if I just want to show you the lead schedules as well. So based on the nominal account code, we have already prepared the lead schedules. If the nominal account remains same, you would get the lead schedules as well for all the audit areas. And then I'm just selecting one area. You can definitely, all the areas would have the same pattern. I would not cover all the areas, just one area I'm taking an example. So we also have a WP index, that what are there in this plant, property, and equipment as an index. We have a lead schedule defined. We have an audit program defined, which I've showed you. We have all the working papers, which I'll show you in the next one. And we also have a physical verification report for this particular audit area. So this way, all my audit areas are pre-linked as per the standard demands. And then now moving into the INDI-AS checklist, which is very important, which might at the top of your mind as well. So the INDI-AS series checklist are defined here. So if I show you the perennial checklist column here, so all the series of my INDI-AS are here. Just if I randomly pick one, let's say, for example, I want to say for inventories, which is INDI-AS 2. So if you see, all the references are given 2.1, 2.13, and also there is a condition. So it's not that all the INDI-AS series will get activated when you link this master pack with a client. It would depend on the planning questions. During the planning of an client, whatever is the situation or whatever is the answer from the client, based on that, my series would get activate or deactivate. So there is a total control on activation and deactivation as well. So that was about the audit areas. Now, I would also like to show you quickly the control environment questions. So these are the control environment questions which we will perform during our risk assessment. And we would also like to show you some specific inherent risk questions as well. So these are my inherent risk question. If you see, there are broad heads at the top, and under every broad head, there are subcategories. So if I just switch this one, you'll see a different. So basis this also, my my risk assessment would be done. As soon as I upload a trial balance, the first thing that we would like to see is my materiality factors. So the materiality factors are defined here. So everywhere there is a pattern which has been given, like 0.5% of my total turnover would be my materiality factor in this case, which will come from revenue from operations. Similarly, there are different percentage. You can also do a graduated one where you can send a band limit basis of the figure. My percentage would differ. So we have all the to 10 different factors. So it's not that the system is restricting you to use this or to define yourself with this for. You can just go ahead and tweak it or customize it the way your requirement demands. So that was about the materiality one. And another important thing that I would like to touch base in the master pack are the tailoring questions. So based on these tailoring questions, this is your entire master pack will be tailor-made when you link it with a client. So as I have just given an example, let's say, for example, we have a variety of series in the Indie AS1, but all the series might not be applicable to a particular client. Let's say, for example, I'm doing an audit for a service client where they would not have a stock. So if I don't find any value in the trial balance, that area would not activate. That's the area which will not activate. Again, then I have further control. If I want to activate few and don't want to activate further, I can control it through this tailoring question during my planning phase, so that when my mates or when my colleagues go to the client side during the field work, they have everything structured and defined. Then they don't waste time thinking much, or don't have to, redo the work on finding that what needs to be, proved, what needs to be audited. Everything would be inside the tool. They just go there. Simply, it would be stepwise process. They would go here, smoothly do that. They would reach to the end of the audit very smoothly, and they would come back for review to the partners. So that's what tailoring question helps. Interestingly, the templates are very important, and this would be a very major interest to all the auditors. So all the working papers, all the letters, and all the reports has been defined. So just to give you a glimpse one, let's say, for example, just to show you an engagement letter, I will just open up for you just to show you a sample of that. Just allow me a moment. Let it get open up. And after that, I will be, quickly show you the main index about the workflow, how it flows. And then, I would move to a client. So this is an audit engagement letter sample. So this way we have, defined all the templates, all the working papers, all the reports, so that, everything is intact into the system. Whenever the users or your colleagues, they go for an audit, they can simply go back to the template section, and they can pull out the document or the template that they would require to fill in the data from the client. So they don't have to depend or rely, if they don't have a non-automated or a paper-based audit, if they're doing, they don't have to rely on your company folder or a common folder or a shared folder, which you might be using it if you don't have an automated solution in place. So this kind of solution really helps, especially during this uncertainty time when everybody is locked and are dependent on the documents more. So that was about the template. Now coming to this main index, you can also define the workflow here. If you see, we have defined it this way for this pack. If I opt a different master pack, you will have a different workflow. So these workflows are defined using this button. You can add more workflow. You can reduce anything. If you don't require, you can simply delete it, or you can edit the nomenclature as well. So that was a quick walkthrough about the master pack. We have spent a few minutes on the master pack because this is an important part, an integral part when we do an audit. So I'll just go ahead and release the master pack back. And I already have created a client for you, and I have a trial balance with me, where I'd be importing the trial balance just to give you a first-hand experience that how it works. So I have saved my trial balance in my G drive, just to give you a quick glimpse of that. Uh, just a moment. Let me quickly, go back and just a moment. I'll just pull up. So Baskin is the file name that I have opted for this trial balance. Just want to show you a trial balance. I've just taken 1 year value. Okay. We have a provision of importing 10 years value. In a practical scenario, we'd be importing 2 years value, previous year versus this year. So this is my trial balance. These are the codes, the nominal codes that I talk about, the GL codes which I've just shown you. These are my values, the debit and credit values. Okay. Now there is a difference of 0.1 if you see, and these are my nominal account name. So this is the trial balance that I'd be importing into a client where I have already created a client by name Baskin. So let me go back to the solution. So let me go ahead and search the client. It's pretty simple. It takes less than a minute to create a client and link it to a master pack, just respecting the time. I've already did that. So just want to show you. This is the client Baskin. So the moment I open up the client, system has given me a prompt that do you want to update a trial balance that is there in the system? So in my system, I have already saved a trial balance file by the same client code. That's the pointer for the system to understand. So I'm just importing the trial balance. You see, this is how simple it is. So let me just quickly import the trial balance. Then I would show you the materiality, and I would show you the audit areas and all, and then we can take up the questions. So I've imported the trial balance, as I've shown you that there is an error, and the error is 0.1, where I've shown you the difference in the Excel file as well. So if you see the same difference, the system would show to us 0.1, so that we are aware that there is a difference, okay, in case if we don't detect it in the Excel. So we have imported the trial balance. Now let's go ahead and see the materiality factor. So my materiality value has already been calculated. This is my performance materiality, and this is my suggested materiality. I can go ahead and override the materiality if I want. I would also have all the trails for any override that I do after my planning is done, so that whenever my peer reviewer comes, I have an answer for all the changes that I have done or my team has done. So that's the materiality, which would be my utmost interest the moment I upload a trial balance. My second area of interest would be immediately go down and see which of my audit areas are material, which are not, because basis that we would then proceed our work. So let me go ahead and show you that. So let me go back and show you the area materiality here. So these are my audit areas which I have defined in this master pack, and basis the trial balance. Yeah, basis the trial balance. Basis the trial balance that I have uploaded, it would show me the area materiality. So if you see, it shows me that which of my areas are material, which of my areas are not material. Okay, so the system would give you the area materiality, and you basis that you would be able to do your risk assessment from here. So I'm just going to the risk assessment button. So any area that you want to do a risk assessment, you can simply opt that out, and you can basis the control and the materiality, you can say that, okay, the overall risk is high, medium, or low, and basis that you would get the sample automatically. So let's say it's a low one. So this is my sample size 15, and this is the sample interval, which has picked up from the trial balances. Now, if I go here and picked up this, I can select. So this is the substantive test that I have to do, which is automatically prompted for me. I select all, or as an auditor, I can say that, no, we don't have to go ahead and do all the samples. We can just pick up this two, through which we will be, okay to assess this risk. So it is, again, in your control as well. So I can just add this one, and I can add it to the pull-up test. So that was about that. And let's quickly go ahead and see one checklist. Okay, so this is a checklist where the user will be answering using these radio buttons at the bottom. This is the way to answer. The moment the user answers yes, no, or not applicable, or you can design this as per the requirement. If you see, his user ID are getting captured, his answers are getting captured, and his date and time are also getting captured. Now, apart from answering yes and no, the user can also put a comment if they want. Okay, the user can put a comment, the user can answer yes and no, the user can also raise a note to their senior or the junior, or the senior can go down to the junior, or the vice versa. So let's say, for example, I want to raise a note for the partner here at this level. So I simply go ahead and I say, okay, this note is for partner. I can click here, raise a note. I can say that, need your advice kind of thing. And then just bear me for the spelling, and say that's attention for a partner. This note is at an audit point. So the partner now would be able to go ahead and see and clear the note as well. So apart from that, I can also attach a document. I can just show you one attaching here. It says that it doesn't have a, let's say, for example, NOC. So you can go ahead and get the document from the template, which I have shown you in the master pack. The same template has flown it here. If you think that no, it's a document that the client has shared, you can just go ahead and import it from your system as well. Let me just go ahead and get a test document. So if you see, a document has been imported here. Let's say, for example, the same document, the reason being why I have given a code to it. Let's say I want to upload a document, the same document here, I want to attach it. I don't have to go to the same manual processes which I have done. I just go ahead and put the code, and pretty much you would be seeing the document here. So at one point in time, you can attach multiple documents, and all these documents that you attach, you would get it in the user created document in a format where you'll be able to know who has created the document. Do you want to carry forward for the next year? And now, as Chris has mentioned, in the document, if I want, I can also review as a partner. And then if somebody needs to edit, they can come back to us, and then I can release it back for editing. So these are the facilities there for the documentation as well. Now coming back to the checklist. Now, once all the question in the checklist are answered, so let me take a smaller checklist where I'll try and answer all the checklist. So all the 3 questions has been answered. Now you have an indicator here. If you see here, the software can give an indication. I can say that it's marked complete. If you see there is a green indication, which the other reviewers will know that the checklist has been completed, it's time for review. So you can go through this entire process. The senior can say it's complete for their side. The manager can say partner, or a partner can directly go and say that, okay, I have reviewed. So the partner would have to review all the checklists. Once all the checklists and the standard programs are done, then the planning stage needs to be signed off. Once the planning stage is signed off, it will automatically take you to the planning stage. The user will only be able to sign off once it completes all the processes that is defined in the planning stage. So taking you back to the information page of the client, if you see, it runs on a 3-fold mechanism. So first, you are at a planning stage for your client. The moment you sign off the planning stage, system automatically changes the status to field work. Now, field work is your audit area where you'll be seeing all the procedures and documents here. If you see here, now automatically the status will change into completion. Once you sign off the field work, automatically system will change the status from completion to finalization, which will say your audit is complete. So it runs on a 3-fold mechanism. So there's an advantage of using this kind of automated solution over to your paper-based audit, where we often have a tendency to make some assumptions during our planning, and we jump into field work, and later we realize that we have done some assumptions wrong during our planning, and we need to go back and redo all the necessary changes, and it becomes quite a daunting task for us. Also, it's a risk with the compliance, and as we know, like NEFRA and many other boards coming into place now, compliance is the key. So this kind of solutions would control all those kind of leakages that happens during a paper-based audit, and would make your team more efficient, would save a lot amount of time, and it also give a clear picture to the peer reviewer when they come and try to do an audit. You also might have a question that when a peer reviewer comes, is there a facility to give them a PDF document if the peer reviewer is not willing to log into the system and review? Yes, you have an option. The entire audit that we do, we can take a printout of the entire audit pack and give a PDF to the peer reviewer for their review, or we can take a printout even, or we can just simply create a login for them, and we can say that these are the clients that you would be reviewing for us, and they would be able to log into the system in a non-editable mode. Yeah. So that was about whole and soul about the entire solution. If you see, this is the navigation map for all the areas like planning. If you go to completion, you'll have a different navigation map. So it's absolutely user-friendly. Your downline doesn't have to use much of the brain. Everything is designed and defined. You can modify this as well. So all you need to say to them is there is a solution in place which we have defined to standardize the entire process in our organization. Whenever you go visit a client, or whenever you are sitting in the office, all you need to do, just follow stepwise. Stage 1, you need to follow this. You'll be moving to stage 2 smoothly. And once all the stages are done, then we need to sign off. And similar thing will happen in the completion stage and then in the finalization stage. So that was about a quick walkthrough.
Yeah, thank you, Prasoon.
On the solution. Yeah,
we are running a little, ahead, more, almost an hour, half an hour more than our time. So I think without much ado, I think we'll wrap up now. I think we've answered over 60 questions as well. And yeah, we will come back to you. Thank you for sharing your contact details to all the participants who wanted to have more detailed discussions as well as, demos. So please reach out to us. Prasoon's details are also with you, or feel free to email us or contact us through our webpage, and we'll be more than happy to have the discussion with you. And we look forward to interacting more and more with you. Finally, I wanted to share a vote of thanks to Mr. Sanjeev Sanghi, Mr. Manoj, and Mr. Mahidar. Thank you so much for taking your valuable time and participating with us. Really, really appreciate it. And from Wolters Kluwer, we wanted to share, please stay safe, stay home. These are tough times for all of us, and your safety is very important to us. So thanks again for everyone for attending this webinar. Please look forward to more such webinars that we will be having as part of our Smart CA series. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.